Hey everyone, I've got 3 stories to share with you in this video, and I think you're going to find them pretty interesting. Let's kick things off with this one from the Crypto Basic. Could Ripple become an XRP treasury company within the next 12 months? Bitwise's CEO seems to think it's possible, and I've got some thoughts to share on that. I'd love to hear what you think too, so drop your opinions in the comments. Next up, we've got another intriguing headline from Crypto Briefing. Donald Trump Jr. is backing thumbs up to acquire Ether, XRP, and Solana after a recent board approval. Yep, you heard that right. Stay tuned as I break it all down for you. If another company is now using XRP and other coins, sounds familiar, right? But here's the twist. They're actually using XRP as a treasury reserve asset. Pretty interesting, huh? And guess what? This company, as mentioned in the headline, has Donald Trump Jr. as one of its personal investors. That certainly adds a layer of intrigue. Oh, and then there's this from Yahoo Finance. XRP versus Bitcoin, which is the better buy right now? A solid question for anyone new to crypto for sure. But seriously, do we really not know the answer by now? It's an interesting debate though, and worth digging into for some perspective. One quick note before we go any further. I'm not a financial expert, and nothing I say or write should be taken as financial advice. Cool. So definitely don't buy or sell based on my thoughts here. Always do your own research first. All right, let's dive into this first topic. It's actually a pretty interesting one. What makes it even more compelling is that the person behind this idea isn't just anyone. We're talking about someone respected in the crypto space, someone sharp and credible. So here's the scoop. Hunter Horsley, the CEO of Bitwise Asset Management, has jumped into the conversation about Ripple possibly pivoting to become an XRP treasury company. In a tweet today, Horsley got people talking about the idea of Ripple making this big move within the next 12 months. He mentioned wondering if by next year people will start calling Ripple an XRP treasury firm. But honestly, that really depends on what you mean by that. I mean, there are all kinds of companies out there that could be considered treasury firms, right? So what do you mean exactly? If you're talking about companies, there are plenty of publicly traded ones, for example, that have announced they're holding XRP as a treasury reserve asset. And hey, that's great. It might even encourage some people to invest in their stock. Here's the thing. Some of those publicly traded companies are actually using XRP in their internal payment flows, which is amazing. It's not just sitting there as a reserve asset. They're getting real utility out of it. How cool is that? Now let's talk about a different approach, like what MicroStrategy is doing. They've gone all in and bought a massive amount of Bitcoin, but here's where it gets a bit tricky. Some folks are worried about the risks involved. The critics say this strategy is basically leverage, and while the chances of things going really wrong might be slim, it's not impossible. If things did go south, they could end up having to sell, and that would dump a ton of Bitcoin on the market. If there's ever a situation where an XRP treasury company is involved, it's a bit of a different story. Ripple, of course, already holds the largest XRP treasury reserve out there. But what we're really talking about here is the idea of Ripple accepting investments that are backed by XRP. That's usually what people mean when they bring this concept up. It's a little like the MicroStrategy approach. Honestly, though, Ripple doesn't need the money, so I'm a bit skeptical about this idea. That said, Ripple is always finding new ways to create revenue streams when it makes sense. They're constantly branching out into different areas of crypto, whether it's custody solutions, stable coins, or other exciting ventures. And they're not sitting still, that's for sure. I find this one a bit questionable, to say the least, because there's always some level of risk involved. And honestly, I'm not sure it's even necessary, especially when you don't actually need those kinds of funds. Did you catch what Brad Garlinghouse said recently? I think it was just a few weeks ago. If I'm remembering correctly, and apologies if I'm a little off, he mentioned that Ripple has around 3.7 billion in cash just sitting on their balance sheet. That's a lot. So it doesn't really seem likely they'd need to do something like this. Now, I'm not saying it's impossible. Who knows? I'm just feeling a bit skeptical about it. If my gut turns out to be wrong, then so be it. Maybe there's a solid reason for it. At the end of the day, though, it's not like this is bad news for XRP. Here's the thing. When things go sideways, you could end up with a situation where a ton of XRP gets dumped on the market. And if it's a big enough amount, it could cause issues, especially if multiple companies are doing this kind of thing. That's why so many people are worried about these Bitcoin treasury firms heading down this road. Now, if there's no leverage involved and no risk of liquidation, I don't see a problem at all. To be clear, no leverage, no risk, no issue. And honestly, that's the case for most companies saying they'll hold XRP as a reserve asset. They're not doing what MicroStrategy is doing. And that's really the main point I'm trying to make here. More and more companies are starting to hold XRP as a reserve asset. Pretty exciting, right? That brings us to this story. Donald Trump Jr. has given the green light for Thumbs Up Media to expand its crypto holdings. Thumbs Up, a social media marketing and crypto-focused company based in Los Angeles, shared on Wednesday that its board has approved plans to invest in more digital assets beyond Bitcoin. Currently, Thumbs Up holds over 2 million in Bitcoin, but now they've got the go-ahead to start acquiring other cryptocurrencies like Ether, XRP, Solana, Dogecoin, Litecoin, and USDC. This is a big step for the company, which pays users to promote products on platforms like Instagram. Oh, and here's an interesting detail. Donald Trump Jr., the eldest son of former President Donald Trump, owns 350,000 shares in the company, valued at over 4 million. With his latest approval, it looks like Thumbs Up is gearing up for an even bigger role in the crypto world. How about that? Another company recognizing the value of XRP as a reserve asset. Pretty exciting, right? And honestly, you can expect to see more of this happening over time. All it took was a level playing field and the end of the crypto crackdown in the US, which happened after Trump won the election. Now, on to the big question. XRP vs Bitcoin? What's the better buy right now? Honestly, it feels like an easy answer. It's XRP, no contest. I'm not sure what Bitcoin's price is right now. It's so volatile. But the last time I checked, it was over $118,000. 0 cents. Crazy, right? Even if it were to double to $240,000, 0 cents, which honestly I think is super unlikely this market cycle. I'm not holding my breath for it. I just don't see it getting anywhere near that. Now, let's talk about XRP. What would it take for XRP to double, maybe hit $5, 0 cents, or even a bit higher? Honestly, not much. XRP doesn't have nearly as much money in it compared to Bitcoin, and I really think it's undervalued right now. It's been treated like a tax for years because of all the SEC drama, but that's finally changing. Now the market is catching up. And honestly, what's the better investment right now? Seriously, are you asking that with a straight face? Anyway, I'm not going to dive into the entire article here, but there's one part I really want to highlight. First off, when they talk about Bitcoin, they stick to the usual points. It's scarce, it's a store of value, pretty straightforward, nothing new. But then they get to XRP, and I've got to say, I love this subheading. XRP's utility is hard to understate. Well, isn't that the truth? I've been saying this for what feels like forever, and it's great to see it finally being acknowledged here. The investment case for XRP is definitely unique. It's currently priced around $2.28, although that was from a couple of days ago before the most recent spike. Things are moving fast. On another note, they mentioned that the XRP ledger, XRPL, just activated an automated market maker feature. This lets any wallet convert assets on chain and earn fees from idle balances. But honestly, that feature isn't exactly new. I'm not sure why they phrased it like it was just launched. If I'm remembering right, wasn't that rolled out over a year ago, maybe early last year? Time kind of blurs together, but I'm pretty sure that's the case. Anyway, it's an important feature for the chain's intended users, primarily institutional investors. But honestly, they shouldn't word it like that. Intended users makes it sound like XRP was only designed for institutions, which isn't true at all. XRP was created to be a better version of Bitcoin, and it's meant for everyone, not just institutions. Sure, institutions are included in everyone, but it's not exclusively for them. That idea just doesn't hold up. It's similar to some of the silly arguments you hear from certain people in the community, like you're not supposed to hold XRP or XRP wasn't made for retail. Those kinds of comments just don't make any sense. If you're curious about the intent behind it, just ask David Schwartz. He'll tell you they were simply trying to build a better Bitcoin. That's literally what he said. Honestly, stuff like this really gets to me. Anyway, moving on. Here's something interesting. The XRPL comes with built-in regular friendly tools that make it easier to stay compliant with laws like anti-money laundering, AML, and know your customer, KYC. Features like authorized trust lines, blacklists, and the ability to freeze accounts help issuers stay on the right side of regulations. To be clear though, this doesn't mean freezing XRP itself. It's about maintaining compliance for issuers. Tokenizing real-world assets is turning into big business, especially for asset managers looking for smoother, more efficient ways to handle them. And here's where compliance tools play a crucial role. They're key to capturing this growing market. Just to give you an idea, the value of the real-world asset ARBWA sector hit $24.8 billion in June, and some estimates suggest it could skyrocket to $30 trillion by 2034. Yep, trillion. XRP is already making waves in this space. For example, a 693 million Treasury bond fund is now on its chain, giving users 24/7 access to short-term government debt. That's huge. As more assets get tokenized, having essential options like treasuries on chain will make XRP an even more attractive choice for institutional investors looking to park their capital. And honestly, even if this one use case, tokenization, was all XRP had going for it, it's already massive. It's a game changer. This single use case alone is enough to solidify XRP's long-term potential and drive its value. It's big, folks, really big. It's really happening right now. Money market funds are being tokenized on the XRP ledger. This isn't some far-off idea or speculation. It's real and already in motion. That's why I keep saying XRP has already won. There's no need to debate whether it's going to succeed. It already has. The proof is right here, and it's amazing to see it all unfold. To put it simply, with XRP, the real magic lies in its ability to provide liquidity at the scale institutional investors need. Every time a tokenized treasury or corporate debt issue gets added on ledger, it strengthens the pools, reduces pricing inaccuracies for large transactions, and encourages newcomers to hold a little XRP reserve to participate. Funny how that works, right? It's like those of us in the community who've been here for years already knew this, and we've been saying it all along. Now it feels like the rest of the world is finally starting to catch on. Better late than never, though, right? The more the merrier. Bring it on. As for the age-old question of XRP vs Bitcoin, they're not picking sides. Their take is simple. It probably makes sense to have a bit of both in your portfolio. Sure thing. Thanks for sharing your thoughts. When it comes to returns on investment, I'm convinced XRP is the clear winner. It's not even a competition. Just wait until this cycle wraps up. I'll be making a video breaking down how XRP has outperformed Bitcoin by a mile in terms of ROI, and it's already ahead. We haven't even seen the second big pump for XRP yet, which historically has been a game changer. Once this cycle is complete, it's going to be amazing to watch. What a time to be an XRP holder, right? Quick reminder, I'm not a financial advisor, so please don't make any financial decisions based solely on what I say or write. Always do your own research before buying or selling anything.